Good afternoon, Keller Williams. Welcome to what probably feels like day 103 of online training through Connect Live. And we're super, super thankful. One, that you guys are all, if you're watching this, healthy enough and have everything you need enough to be here and be able to focus on your real estate business. And we're also super thankful that we have the ability as a company to be able to instantly change and collaborate and make sure that we can move our businesses in the right direction. I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how in a shifting market, we as a company have been able to not only shift how we all learn as a group, but how we take what is a very, very traditional lead generation source and shift it to a really new realm. And we've got three amazing ladies with us that are going to talk about how they've been doing virtual open houses as a big part of their business. So without any further ado, we'll jump right in and start right here in Austin, Texas with the lovely Wendy Pavazan. Wendy, how are you?
I'm doing great, David. Good to see you. Normally, I can just run down the hallway and see you. But
yeah, and now we're virtual. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business? We'll have everyone do this kind of about your business, and then at what stage of shutdown is your market, just so we can kind of lay the land for everybody.
Sure. Well, our hub is in Austin, Texas, and then we have several locations in Dallas, Houston, and a team in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so we're in different stages in different cities. So we're having to really get on our Zoom call every single morning and kind of find out where everyone is at. And just like a lot of other places, the rules are shifting here. You know, we went on shelter in place. And real estate is considered essential here in Austin, and yet our showings are very, very limited. So we're just kind of taking a conservative approach, really, in all of our cities to make sure that everyone stays safe.
Yeah, we'll transfer over to Ashley. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you all doing?
Great. Why don't you tell everyone kind of where you're at, a little bit about your business, and then kind of what level of lockdown are you?
Yeah, so again, I'm Ashley Marsh. I help run the Reynolds Marsh team in Columbus, Ohio. We're a team of 16, so we definitely are not as big as Wendy. We are doing the Zoom morning check-ins and all that good stuff too to try to stay on track, because virtual land is very different for a big part of our team. Our lockdown is the same as well. We're considered essential. However, most of the population here doesn't really want to do showings or have people coming in and out of their houses unless they really need to sell. So it's kind of where we're at.
Awesome. And I think we're now going to make our way down to Florida. So we have one, Tony, I heard that you are on your way to being a brand new KWU approved instructor. I heard you had a big day today.
Well, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you knew that. That has been on my goal list for a couple years now, and I got my email like 3 hours ago. It was the best news on a day like today. So thank you for saying that.
Well, congratulations. Tell everyone a little bit about you and your business and kind of how the market's working down there.
It's fascinating. My husband and I run a team of 12. We did about 60 million in production last year for about 150 units, and we were on pace this year to do about 200. And that's kind of come to a screeching halt, and we're very much pivoting with everything in our lives. I have a third grader at home and a 3-year-old, and running a business. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot of adjusting. So yeah, our state is not in a big state of lockdown. There are certain counties in Florida, they're really doing it county by county, like Orlando's on a lockdown. And we're just not. So we're still seeing a handful of showings. More of our vacant properties are getting shown. A lot of listing agents will go to a property and Zoom with you and your clients because that seller has a certain level of comfort with their listing agent. So there's a couple different things we're figuring out here for sure.
Perfect. So so everyone knows, one, if you guys are watching us on Connect Live, there is a Slido box there. Feel free to ask your questions. We'd be happy to answer as many as we can in the next 42 minutes. We've got some too, and we kind of wanted to set the stage a little bit. And Tony, we'll start with you and kind of work our way backwards. Just open houses obviously were a piece of your business before everything happened with COVID, and you guys all have made them a continued piece of your business moving forward. Mm-hmm. Any open house in general, whether it's virtual or in person, what are kind of the couple of things that you would consider a standard or a must-do, or the reason you're doing those open houses? And we'll kind of work our way around, and then we'll get into how you pivoted those things into a virtual world.
Yeah, that's a great question. We're a very second home market in Sarasota, Florida. So we have Sunday open houses are huge for us because people are just driving around, checking things out. I may want to buy a condo at the beach and come live here part-time. So open houses were a huge source of revenue for us. So what we've done is really pivoted. We're not doing any in person anymore in the last 2 weeks. And so we've really taken it to doing them online, using our Matterport scans and recording our Zoom calls and doing a lot of things through our social media. And really the point of that, it's a couple things. If we're just having a direct conversation, is to show our sellers that we're being proactive and doing something different. We're not just like, oh, virus, can't do anything. Like we're really being proactive and getting your listing still in front of people. It absolutely is to capture some buyers. We've got a lot of buyers that follow our social media platforms. It's absolutely to capture new sellers, and we can talk about how we're doing that. And then it really is just to stay mind share with all of the people on your social media that may not be looking to buy or sell right now. It just keeps you top of mind for when they need a real estate professional when all of this passes.
Gotcha. Ashley, what about you? What are kind of I mean, obviously we're all doing open houses in our businesses for the lead generation purpose, but if you had to break it down as you look to pivot from an in-person open house to a virtual open house, what are the things that you kind of had to maintain through that transition?
We're actually doing a lot the same. We're still marketing for at least a week ahead of time in order to, like, before the event, to make sure that we're getting maximum exposure. Instead of having open house signs all over the place, we're going to start putting them out in the front yard next to the for sale sign with just some information about where to find the virtual open house. We're just using like small teaser videos, things like that, to really entice that, like we would be doing through flyers and whatnot. And we also are still maintaining the phone calls in the neighborhoods and trying to touch base with people that way, which is working because people are home. So yeah, we're trying to keep doing the same things, but just, pivoting in a different direction with it.
Gotcha. Wendy, what about you? What are kind of, outside of the lead generation portion of it, what were those things that you kind of had to, like, almost like people are looking at their expenses, right? These are critical expenses and these are nice to have expenses. What are those critical things for your team that you had to bring over from the physical to the virtual?
Well, I think the thing, I agree with everything that everyone said. And I think the thing that's what we're really looking to do now is to figure out the lead capture portion of it, because it's great to say you went online and you had 1,300 views and all of that stuff. But if you don't get any lead capture information, then it's kind of pointless. And also for us, doing listings in our farm is super important. And so figuring out ways to really to capture those seller leads. And to be honest with you, we don't really I don't have an answer to that. And I'm hoping we can, talk about that today. But I think for all of us moving forward, it's great to say, hey, we're out here doing great stuff, but really, how can we capture those leads?
I think you touched on something there that we talked about kind of in our pre-call, which was, this is new to all of us, right? There is really no best practice at this point at what best case scenario sounds like 2 weeks into this thing of trying to host these things virtually. And so I would make sure that everyone out there who is thinking about this and maybe has some trepidation about doing a virtual open house because you're used to doing them in person, remember the first open house you did, and it was probably clunky and you probably didn't have as many great conversations as you do now. This is going to be that same process. And we talked about that. So maybe let's go through, Ashley, I'll start with you. What are some struggles you found through your first couple, right, that you immediately made some pivots on? And Tony and Wendy will come to you guys with that same question.
So it honestly, like super basic stuff, like going through the house too fast. We would have agents going through to do a live, and they would walk through and they're like, here's the front door, here's this, here's that, here's that. And like literally in your screen, that's what it looks like. And we're like, okay, so now we need to slow down. And then even just like engagement, because it's so different when you sit in an open house and you're waiting for people to come in versus being on this blank screen staring at yourself. So those were a couple things that we kind of had to move. And then we can talk about it a little bit later, but we actually pivoted from doing the lives to doing pre-recorded. And that's kind of moving us in a different direction with that too, to help out.
Gotcha. Wendy, what about you? What are some of, if you had any pitfalls at the beginning or adjustments you made after the first two, what were some of those things that someone could watch out for to avoid right from the start?
So this is extremely basic, but you don't want to hold your camera like this. You want to hold it like this. The quality's a lot better, super basic. And then you also want to have someone who's doing the filming for you. You don't want to be walking through and like trying to do a selfie when you're walking through the house. It tends to be very jittery and it's not great. So, Jay helped me out with that one, which was awesome. I do think you need to be engaged with your audience somewhat. And so the person holding, especially if you're doing a Facebook Live, they can see who's on there. They can wave to everyone if they're good at multitasking. Multitasking is a myth, I know. And then I would just say know more information about the house and have that like somehow in front of you, because the first one I did, I put all my notes about the house on my phone. And then when I got there, I realized, oh, my phone is also my camera. So there go my notes. And those are all just like really, really basic things. But, I can remember when I held my first open house and I was just so nervous. There was a really sweet agent in my office who offered to let me use her open house signs. And I remember going into her office and getting the open house signs and not realizing that they were branded with her information. And so I think I can't stress it enough, guys. It's just, we're all failing forward out there. And it's just like the first time you do a regular open house, it's nerve wracking. You don't know what you're doing. And the best of us are just all failing forward.
I think you said something really interesting there, which was having to really understand the property before you get in it, right? I mean, most of us probably at the open houses that we had done in person, you've got the seller's disclosure with you and you've got the MLS sheet in front of you and it's all right there for you to reference really passively without knowing it. If you're using your phone and your notes are on your phone, you're probably not walking around with all those sheets of paper to say things. So that's a really, really good point, is to do your research ahead of time. Tony, what about you? What are some of the pitfalls that people could watch out for right from the start?
I have to say guilty with Wendy. The first one that I did, because I do mine on Zoom, so I don't go to the houses. I'm doing it and taking them on a tour through my Matterport through a screen share. And I'm like, oh, the bedrooms are upstairs. This is great. And then I'm like, oh, there's a bedroom downstairs too. So really, because if I had been at the open house, I would have obviously known there was a bedroom downstairs. So knowing your kind of statistics on there. And then the other one is my daughter busted in, my 3-year-old, during one of them. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have 10 seconds of my daughter on here. And it really freaked me out. Like the high D in me kind of was like, oh my gosh, like this is going to look bad, blah, blah, blah. But I found that people just found that super authentic, right? Like I made mistakes. I'm like, oh, I apologize. There actually is a bedroom on the first floor. They're using it as an office. And here's my 3-year-old assistant. So when you come across really authentic through them, I think people have responded a lot to that as well. And Wendy, I hear what you said like a couple minutes ago about we don't know what the return on this will be. Like, how do we lead capture? So we made a page on our website that has all of the virtual open houses that we've done. And then we've got like a funnel capture system. So we've gotten some seller leads from people looking at them. And I have to just go on faith that because we're being a little bit disruptive and doing something different, there's no statistics to say how this is going to turn out in terms of a lead conversion. But I have to believe by continuing to put these out there and get mind share that the leads will start to come back to us. So there's no data on how this is going to go. But I feel like if we're doing something different and cool, it'll make an impact.
Yeah. Well, I think about the amount of people that look at it that never would have gone to that open house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like it's a whole different thing.
Oh yeah. Well, that part is great. So we did our first 2. We work for a builder here in town, and we did 2 in 75 minutes. And by the end of the day, we had 1,300 views. And I just turned to my partner who was there with me, and I was like, okay, so why were we doing it this old fashioned way where it takes an hour to put the signs up, the open house is 3 hours, it takes another 30 minutes to take the signs down, and then 5 people come through.
And you're like, yes, we got 7 people. That's a success. I used to think that. Yeah.
Well, no, it's really interesting. 1,300 people might have been your sum total of all open houses held last year, and you got it in one day in 75 minutes. It's pretty unbelievable.
1,300.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to Tony. You mentioned you were using Zoom. I heard Ashley, I think, say you use Facebook Live. Wendy, I'm not sure what you're using. Tony, tell us how you're using Zoom, and let's kind of go through and talk about what platform you're using and if you've tried multiple and what things people could test out to do things differently.
Yeah, I was fairly proud of myself if I pat myself on the back, because I don't tend to figure things out. I tend to say, this is a great idea. Can someone figure this out for me? But I took it on myself. So I figured out with Zoom that if you have your own Zoom account and you open it, at the bottom, it says record. So I started recording just myself talking to myself. And then up in the upper right corner, it says share screen. So I clicked on, I start here like, hey, this is Tony Zargami, wanted to share another great property with you. I click share screen. And then I jump into my multiple listing service and I show them like the front picture and scroll through the first couple. And then I click on our Matterport tour and I physically walk them through the Matterport tour. And then at the very end, you know, if you have any questions, want to schedule a private showing of this property, send me a message, any questions. So people have private messaged me through our social media with different questions or things like that. And then I just upload it and share it on Facebook. So it's very low tech, but with a pretty good response so far.
That's awesome. Wendy, how are you guys doing it?
Well, we're doing it in several different ways, mainly through Facebook, but so we're doing the Facebook Lives. But what I think is important is for all of us to remember is that any content we're putting out right now, we're trying to be very careful about sharing it across all of our social platforms. Through all of our cities, like I'm posting things on LinkedIn. And so it does take a bit more effort to do some of these things. And so my advice to everyone would be is like, if you do come up with something great, if you have a great virtual tour that you end up doing, make sure you share it across all your platforms and really get the most out of that, whatever that looks like for you.
Ashley, what about you? So I've heard pre-recorded Zoom, I've heard live Facebook Live. How are you guys conducting? How's your team conducting the virtual open houses?
Some of them do. We've started off doing the lives, and like I said, they kind of went awry for us a little bit, just trying to keep everybody on schedule because we would have to have somebody back at home too, like typing and trying to work it all out. So it was a little bit more complicated than we wanted it to be. So we do a pre-recorded video and then we do watch parties. So I set up an event in Facebook and I have like my last listing, I had 3 open houses, 2 on Sunday, 1 tonight, and then we're just multiplying that through the watch parties. So we're using that and then we're going to start experimenting with them on Instagram. I don't know how that's going to go yet, but that's going to be our next step for over this weekend.
Can I ask a question?
So I think, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, David. I was just going to say, that's fascinating. Why do you do it as a watch party? Do you like invite people to that and kind of hype it up? Like at 4:00 we're doing, is that how you're doing it? That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we do the watch party because we have more control over what's going on and I can actually move the video around while I'm in there. So if we have people have specific questions about one part of the video, I can actually move it, which is cool. And then we're capturing those people making comments as they're in there. And then our agents can go in afterwards and follow up with more information about the house and get their contact information that way as one funnel. And then we can also put out there on our advertising prior, if you're interested in checking out this virtual open house on Sunday, just send us your email address. We'll get you the link over and then we can funnel through that way too.
That's awesome.
And anything you do on Facebook, you can reuse it and you can just do a watch party again later. So what we've done on our team is someone will go out and they'll do a Facebook Live, like actually live. And then if you go to that person's Facebook page, you can actually take what they've done and you can host a watch party on your own Facebook, again, at a different time. Mm-hmm. And in fact, if you tag different people, like if you have a team, or if you've got different people in your market center, you can actually tag different people and it starts a watch party on all of their Facebook. So I think that's part of the reason we got so much engagement that first time is we had just tagged different people on the team. And so they start a watch party on their Facebook page and their audience also gets engaged.
That's awesome.
So I feel like we may have found some sort of a best practice here, which is pre-recording these things or going live at some point. And then I think kind of what I heard is I can hold the same house open using the same material multiple times over the course of the same day or the same weekend or even during the week. This actually is a game changer from, I know a lot of people are hesitant to do midweek or during the week open houses because of the amount of traffic that may or may not show up. You could repurpose your Saturday open house on Friday evening at 8:30 p.m. when people are sitting on their couch and actually answer questions live. Are you guys answering questions live during these watch parties? Is this kind of how it works?
Yeah. And think about this. So we have a big like millennial crew here in Columbus, and catching people at lunchtime, I mean, this stuff you couldn't do before. And then we can turn this into our pre-listing appointments too. So our pre-listing appointments are all going to be online via Zoom. And then we go out, do a video of the house while we're there, talk about the pricing, get it on the market. And now we can start doing all the virtual advertising. That it's just crazy what this is gonna do for us.
Yeah. Well, and we're not doing this, but this is the idea I actually got from Ashley when we were talking ahead of time is you can get those little bandit signs basically made very cheaply and very quickly. And it could say, you know, virtual tour Saturday, 2 p.m., www.facebook.com/Wendy Papazian. And so what you do then is, because you know what we're sort of missing is that engagement of the neighborhood, right? It's one thing to have engagement of your Facebook friends, but that would be a way to promote it actually in the neighborhood and hopefully capture some of those listing leads that you might get.
Yeah, especially you mentioned, Wendy, a farm earlier, right? If you're farming a neighborhood, this is a great way to stay engaged with those people in that farm.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, were you going to say something?
I was, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, David. That's something that yeah, I didn't think about the signs, Ashley. That was a great idea when we were talking ahead of time. What we've done is we've asked our sellers to, because a lot of our neighborhoods have like group Facebook pages that you can only get in when you're a resident. So we've shared our videos with our sellers and asked them to upload it into the community Facebook page. And we've gotten a lot of engagement that way. And then I've gone and friended everyone that's had a question or made a comment. We got 2 seller leads from one of our videos from other people that are like, wow, I was thinking about listing. I thought I'd wait till after this, but maybe can we talk now? And so having them posted in community boards and things like that could be a great way to capture some leads.
This is unbelievable. And it seems, you know, a lot of people I think are hesitant to come into an open house occasionally because they kind of feel like they're going to be sold to that house when they walk in the door. But maybe seems like a really easy way for people to stay in kind of voyeuristic mode, even if they're not thinking about moving today or tomorrow, in those neighborhood Facebook pages. You know, I think imagine having your seller host a watch party about their own house or in that Facebook group for the neighborhood. That's really cool. We got a bunch of questions coming in on Slido, and the number one question we have right now is, how long are these virtual open houses, right? Wendy, you mentioned you did 2 in 75 minutes. So is it fair to say that like around 30 minutes in each house is kind of what you're seeing?
No, I think that's too long. I just think we had some drive time, and then we actually ran into, it was weird. We ran into some of our clients at the second virtual house we did randomly. So I would say they're way shorter. You'd want them to be like 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the size of the house. So yeah, very short. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do a 30-minute one. I mean, who wants to watch that?
Yeah, Ashley, what about you?
I think total with questions, it's about 15 minutes. And that was for a bigger house. I would definitely do less than that. But the cool thing is when you do it like this, you could do it while you're sitting at your desk at home, and you didn't have to drive and you didn't have to drop off signs, and it takes 15 minutes.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, as we talk through this, it seems like this is an incredibly efficient way to get your house out there, as opposed to the old way of like you said, Wendy, an hour to set up the signs. I'm in the house for 3 hours. It's 30 minutes to take the signs down. And all of a sudden I'm in for a half a day for the 5 leads that walked in. Tony, how long are you guys seeing that they're lasting on your side?
Yeah, so because mine are pre-recorded and I'm just recording myself talking into Zoom, they're like 3 to 4 minutes. My longest one was, I think, 4 minutes and 4 seconds. So mine are pretty short.
So it sounds like best practice, if you're doing this live, like maybe somewhere south of 10 minutes, if you're doing it in a watch party type setting where you're actually getting engagement and questions, like 10 to 15 minutes seems to be a sweet spot on this call. Carrie wants to know, do you advertise the price or have people message in, contact you for more info? So how much info are you holding back, and how much info are you giving out from a lead capture perspective? Ashley, we'll start with you.
Well, the first week we didn't give a lot because we forgot. So I mean, price is important. I do think that you should give the price. We also include our landing page that has all that information on there. So we are kind of at this point giving away the farm while we're like working through this to see what's going to work best. I would love to get more information on that though, as to how the ladies are doing it.
Yeah,
Tony, what about you?
Yeah, we're not. I guess I just didn't think about it. We're not giving away the price, and it's been interesting. The questions that have come in, like, oh my gosh, how much is a property like this? So it's actually caused some engagement. So we don't say the price. We say the address, bedrooms, bathrooms, gated community, kind of the things they could find out easily through a tax search or something like that. But we actually don't tell them the price.
Wendy, how are you guys doing it?
I think it's probably a best practice not to tell the price, and then you probably get more engagement. But to be honest, I'm kind of like Ashley. We're just a hot mess, so I don't really even know what we've done. We don't have a best practice.
Well, I think it's interesting, right? You guys talked today about, the lead capture portion of this, the real value in that open house when you do it in person is kind of unknown at this point as to how to do it best. I think the thing that permeates through what you guys are doing is you jumped in on this really early, right? Right when you could start doing this or were forced to start doing this, you did it. And as long as you keep mind share and you're out there doing these activities, you're going to continue to be top of mind as it pertains to real estate for people. And I think our friends at Facebook told us recently they've seen something like a 200% increase in the amount of time people are spending on Facebook. And that's really powerful when it comes to being able to do this stuff and then being able to go back and watch these watch parties at any given time. We all see the occasional Facebook post that filters into our feed 2 days after it was posted. Mm-hmm. So, we probably don't even know the effects of what these are going to be like in the coming days and weeks.
Well, and I would say, David, that if you do decide to go this route, it becomes a very powerful tool in your tool belt for your listing presentation. So for us, of course, every listing appointment we go on is extremely important. And we had a listing appointment in Minneapolis. Gosh, it was just a couple of days ago. And it was, like many appointments, booked very quickly. And so we had to pivot and include all of this virtual stuff that we're doing now for our sellers into our listing presentation. And that portion of our listing presentation, including the virtual open house playbook, is really what allowed us to get that listing, because it was a competitive appointment and there were other agents. And so I would just say, if you guys are doing stuff that's out of the ordinary, make sure that you're putting it in your listing presentations and really, tooting your own horn so you could show the sellers how you're different. Mm-hmm.
Terry's got a question when it comes to recording, and Terry is saying that Instagram needs to have a vertical recording and Facebook likes a sideways recording. I don't know that none of you guys really mentioned Instagram. Ashley, you mentioned you wanted to try it. Have any of you guys had experience with that and needing to record it 2 different ways?
I've done other like little shorties on Instagram, but I think most people are not aware that you can even watch live video on Instagram, and B, most people are doing it on Facebook. So let's just go where the people are for now.
Yeah, for me, Instagram is going to be more of an advertising spot, and I think I will run small snippets and stories and push them over to Facebook.
Tony, same for you. No real, nothing really on Instagram as a primary source.
Yes, sir. So we've we've advertised our virtual open houses, but go to our Facebook page to watch them. So it's been like actually more of an advertisement than we're actually posting anything on there. And that's not right or wrong. I just haven't put the energy into figuring out how to do it effectively on Instagram.
Yeah, and for us, the majority of our people are already on Facebook, so we're trying to stay more towards where our clients are already and where their friends are. So that's why we're kind of sticking with that.
Mm-hmm.
Valerie's got a really interesting question on Slido. After hosting virtual open houses, let's pretend a buyer wants to see the home in person. If so, what script and what procedures do you have in place if you are in a place where there is shelter in place and you can't? I know, Wendy, in Travis County here, we can't actually go even view houses.
So what we've been doing, David, is for all showings is if the house is occupied by a seller, we are teaching them how to use Zoom. And so the seller's agent and the buyer and the buyer's agent all walk through the house together. And the seller and the seller's agent we can all have a nice discussion about the house and the pros and cons. And it's kind of been nice because the seller can very nicely get to know all prospective buyers.
It's really interesting too. That could be a win for the buyers in some cases too, right? There's a relationship built there if you're still in a competitive market to be able to do that. Ashley, what about you? What are some of the scripts you're using when people actually want to see the house in person and aren't able to, or some of the best practices around seeing the house in person if you can?
So we are still able to show houses. However, we have to be extremely safe about it. And when we have our team go out, they're wearing gloves, we're bringing wipes. We do not bring more than, if it's a husband, wife, and the kids, like we're splitting up the parties. We just have to follow all of the safety precautions right now. And we let them know that ahead of time too. And if they're not comfortable with it, then it might not be the right time. At the end of the day, everybody's got to be comfortable with the situation that we're in right now, and we're not going to push anybody or one way or the other.
Tony, what about you? I know that you probably, it seems like your area of Florida is probably the loosest so far out of the three when it comes to how they're operating. What are some of the best practices, even though you can still kind of do everything?
So we borrowed from Jessica Starr, who in Connecticut, who I believe borrowed from someone else. It's a flyer that we made up and said for actual showings, we delivered them to all of our sellers, and they're in the little plaque when they walk in the door. We also send it to a potential buyer ahead of time that says, my seller has left all the lights on. They've turned all the fans on. They've left all of the doors open. Please don't open doors. Please don't touch the light switches. Please don't sit on the furniture. I know that everyone respects during this time. So we've got that for when they go into the property. We also are really, really pre-qualifying our buyers. So when I get a call because someone wants to show, I had it today, wants to show one of my listings tomorrow, I pre-qualified that buyer more than I've ever done in the past. It's a doctor that is getting transferred here that has to close in third. Like, it is a real buyer. It's not someone that's kind of just thinking. So we're really careful about, are you ready, willing, and able to write an offer? And if so, this is what'll happen when you're at the house. The lights will be on, the fans will be on, the doors will be open. So then we're going about it that way. And same as Ashley, we have some sellers that just aren't comfortable with it. So we've got Matterport, the 3D interactive tours of all of our listings. We've been sending a ton of those out to people to preview it that way. Just getting really creative. We actually have a seller who's comfortable with me in the house, but she's not comfortable with anyone else. So Wendy, it's a good idea to have the seller do the Zoom. I've gone and done a Zoom with the buyer's agent, but that's a genius idea to have the seller do it themselves. So we've done that
here.
What was that?
The only way.
Seriously, that's genius.
Yeah, we really don't in Austin. It's tough sledding. So I think that's a really you've talked about Matterport a few times, or 3D tours or video tours. I'd say one of the things I heard on a panel earlier this week or last week was, if you're in an area that hasn't yet been shelter in place and you don't know if real estate is going to be considered an essential service, get all of these done for your listings now in preparation, right? Because there may come a point where you can't do that. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting time, and it's, as we've been sitting here talking, it's crazy to think that we're all sitting here on Zoom calls talking about how we host virtual open houses because we can't actually go show houses to prospective clients. We've got a question from Jay that's got 35 thumbs up. And I'm sure all of you are going to be happy to share this information. Where can we go to see examples of your virtual open houses? So maybe your Facebook pages, if you guys could give us those, and maybe we can find a way to put them somewhere. George, I don't know where. Wendy, where can people find your virtual open houses to look at?
So I created a virtual open house playbook for anyone who's interested. It's a 12-page thing that has screenshots and everything. And if you go to the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook page, that is agent agnostic, and went from like 1,500 people to like 50,000 people in like a day. Mm-hmm. You can go there and you should be able to find it just by searching, or just if somebody wants to send me a direct message on Facebook, I'll just send it to you.
Awesome. Ashley, what about you? Where can people go to see your examples of your virtual open houses?
Ours are on Facebook at Reynolds Marsh Team, or you can look me up, Ashley Marsh, on Facebook. They coincide together. And then we also have a Central Ohio Facebook group that is completely open to agents and consumers. That's called the Virtual Open House Central Ohio. If you want to check that page out, it's everybody in Central Ohio that's doing them right now. So there's lots of good examples of ways to handle it.
Awesome. Tony, what about you? Where can people go to see some of your stuff?
So we've actually created our digital media director created a page on our website. So if you go to zargamigroup.com, I don't know if someone can type that somewhere. It's just my last name. So zargamigroup.com. Under the buyers tab is a tab for our virtual open houses. And so it'll take you through every video we've done so far.
Awesome. Anonymous question. This is interesting. I haven't even thought about this. Are you concerned about other agents attending your virtual open house and farming the leads from the comments? Have any of you guys thought down that path or run into that by chance?
We thought about it for like a hot second.
Bring me a buyer.
I mean, yeah, that's my thing. Like, I want to push it towards other agents so that they see the property too. And yeah, bring me a buyer.
Awesome.
And I'm of the mindset of anything that it's a Keller Williams culture, right? Like anything we can do, if another agent from another company starts doing this, good, that's amazing. Because when we can share something that lifts kind of the presence of realtors in our area, if it was my idea or someone else, great. I hope everybody starts doing these things. So not a concern.
Connect Live, no big deal.
Yeah, hey Jay, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
A question I was going to ask, and I don't know if this has happened yet. When I first started in real estate, I'm sure like most of you, I didn't have any listings. So I was rendered to holding other people's listings open. Have you had any agents come to you with that question? Can I virtually hold your listings open?
Mm-hmm. I have. Yeah, I absolutely have. And so we've got a couple of our listings that have had 6 virtual open houses done, mine being the one that I share with my client and everything. But I am happy to let any of our agents do any of our listings because it's great exposure for them. And it's great exposure for my seller. And if they get a seller lead from it and they go get a listing, that's great for my market center and great for our market share. So yeah, I have a handful of agents doing them on our listings. And I think it's an abundance mindset. Go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy, how about you?
The same. Yeah.
Anonymous question here. Do any of you appear in the video in the beginning to introduce yourself and the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is your chance to be, we've talked about mindshare a lot today. Like you're the expert, you're the agent. Certainly you're there to promote your listing and try to get leads, but you're also there to be the expert on real estate. And there's no better way than to actually let people know who you are and that you do things at a really high level, including virtual open houses. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so Tony, we'll start with you and go around the horn. What's one thing you would encourage an agent that's watching this today? So a piece of advice you'd give an agent about virtual open houses in the time we're in now.
Yeah, I would say just go do it. Wendy, that's great that you've got that resource. I had posted in the PIF or the Pivot Shift Facebook page, just step by step on how I do it. I would say go make a mess of it and figure it out and be authentic because you're going to reach somebody. I got a message from my high school English teacher, like, I always knew you'd make something of yourself. I'm like, thanks, Mr. Belter. But like you literally never know who's going to be watching and whose life you're going to touch. Whether it's a buyer or a seller or someone that just needed to smile for 3 minutes because they're looking at a beautiful waterfront property in Florida, just go figure it out, make mistakes, fumble your way through it, and I think you'll be really surprised at the positive feedback that you get. So just don't be afraid to do it. Just go. I know we're not allowed to say try, so just go out there and do it.
Ashley, what about you? What's one piece of advice you'd give to everyone watching today around virtual open houses?
Well, I totally agree with that. It's not failing. You're just learning and you're correcting and pivoting. And on top of that, just share it everywhere that you can on every platform that you can and just get your name out there.
Wendy, how about you?
So I would say, for me, one of the most amazing things about being a part of Keller Williams is our incredible network that we have. And what I love about KW is, first of all, this incredible education and training. So just plug into some of these Facebook groups, plug into KW Connect online, and then do what I always tell new agents to do, which is to figure out something that works for you and do it over and over and over and over again until you get good at it. I mean, that's just what lead generation looks like. No matter what you do, no matter what you try, you're probably going to be bad at it because you've never done it before, but just keep going and do it over and over again. And then one day you're going to look up and you're going to be an expert.
Do we have a second? I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
You ever notice when you're not supposed to touch your face, like that's all you want to do is like touch your face all the time? Wendy, it's funny you say that because I have always idolized you. I think you're amazing in what you've built and you're a strong, powerful business owner, and every panel you're ever on, I go to. So the fact that this allowed me to be on a panel with you was amazing. And I thought maybe it was something you said, but like none of us are fantastic at this, right? But in order for somebody to be fantastic, you've got to be great. And in order to be great, you've got to be good. And in order to be good, you've got to be mediocre. And in order to be mediocre, you just have to start. And none of us are great. So we're all in the same boat here. I would say get started and figure it out with all of us, because then we'll get good and great and fantastic together.
Yeah, if you're an agent out there, I mean, one of the takeaways I've had from here is all of you guys started doing virtual open houses 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't done one yet, you're at the very worst 2 weeks behind the people that have been doing it the longest. And so like we're all in the same boat, and the amount of people that you have the ability to reach in relation to your normal open house, if you think of all those views, are like all of the people that would have driven by your signs and you would have never known they did it, right? And you would have never been able to share the amount of people that saw your signs on a weekend with your seller. Now you actually have some data that you can share with people. This has been really amazing. George, it looks like, posted everyone's website in the Slido link, the resources for all that you guys told us. Thank you so much for your time. This has been really, really enlightening. And for all of you that have watched, this has been really, really awesome. Go try it. Get out there, do it. An object in motion is going to stay in motion. So if you stop your lead generation now, if that was a piece of your business, now is the time to continue moving forward, just in a virtual world. Tony, Ashley, Wendy, thanks so much for your time, and we will see you guys all next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.